The Mini 4 Pro is equipped with many advanced features, most of them for filming. In this video I will walk you through all the settings needed to capture cinematic footage and make the most of its outstanding functionalities. If you're mainly interested in photography, I have done a similar guide for still images. You will find a link at the end of this one. At the top of the main screen of DJI Fly app, some useful indicators show the status of the aircraft. From left to right we find the current speed mode, the remaining battery life, the strength of the signal, the status of the obstacle avoidance system, white when it is on and red when off, and the number of satellites connected. At the bottom left we find an icon to access the map of the area, and next to it we can check the horizontal and vertical distance from the home point, as well as the vertical and horizontal speed. In the DJI Fly app there are three main areas to set the different options for video. In the settings, through the three-dot icon at the top right of the screen, in the photo menu window above the shutter, and the exposure values at the bottom right of the screen. I will focus only on the important one for filming. Let's start with the Safety tab of settings. A crucial new feature of the Mini 4 Pro, compared to previous lightweight models of the DJI line, is the omnidirectional obstacle avoidance system. There are three options. When choosing bypass, the aircraft will avoid obstacles by finding its way around them. With brake it will stop and over, while when choosing off the system will be unavailable. This is a very important safety functionality and I suggest setting it always on bypass to prevent crashes. Notice that in low light the obstacle detection system is not available. In the Control tab of settings we find Gain and Expo settings to control the movement of the camera. In this window we can set the values independently for each of the three speed modes: Cine, Normal and Sport. Max horizontal ascend and descend speed are self-explanatory. Max angular velocity is the speed of the rotation of the camera when panning, using the left stick of the remote control. I suggest setting it to a low value for more control. Yaw smoothness controls the behavior when releasing the stick after panning. With the minimum value the rotation will stop abruptly. I prefer a value just above the midpoint for a smoother move. Brake sensitivity controls the distance travel after releasing the right stick. Moving further down we can control the movement of the gimbal. Max control speed determines how fast the gimbal will tilt up or down. I like to set a low value for precise moves. Tilt smoothness controls how quickly the gimbal will come to a halt after a move. I prefer a value slightly above the midpoint. Further down we can access the button customization window to assign specific actions to the two buttons on the back of the RC2 controller, to the scroll wheel, or a combination of the wheel with each of the two buttons. I like to set the C1 button to recenter tilt down gimbal, and the C2 to cruise control. Cruise control is another important new feature of this model. We can start a movement, in this case advancing diagonally to the left. When we hit the button to install cruise control, the aircraft will continue to fly at the same speed and direction, and we can concentrate on adding other movements like ascending or descending, or tilting the gimbal. It is a very useful feature for cinematic footage and I will analyze it in a dedicated video. The right dial is handy for smooth control of the digital zoom. In the Camera tab of settings, the menu is context sensitive, in other words, it is different in video compared to photo mode. Since we have selected video in the Video Photo menu, all the items in the Camera tab will relate to filming. We notice another major upgrade of the Mini 4 Pro, the presence of 2-bit color profiles, D-Log and HLG, besides the traditional 8-bit mode Normal. I have covered the color profiles of the Mini 4 Pro in a specific video. You can watch it by clicking on the link on the screen. In normal mode, there is a choice for the coding format between H.264 and H.265. H.265 is becoming the standard format and is the one I suggest using. When the log M profile is chosen, the image on the screen will appear quite flat, but we can activate Color Display Assist to add contrast and saturation. The histogram is the only tool I use for exposing, therefore I have it on all the time. I always leave some space between the last bar to the right and the right edge of the histogram to prevent burning the highlights. Picking levels highlights in red the areas in focus. I only use it when focusing manually on a subject close to the camera. On all other occasions I keep it off, as I find it distracting. Overexposure warning when selected shows zebra lines on overexposed areas. I find it extremely distracting and never use it. Then we can overlay grid lines. I find it useful to add one in the middle to apply the rule of thirds. When filming with drones, we often have the horizon line in the frame. Rather than having it in the middle, it is more interesting to divide the scene into thirds and have it either on the higher or on the lower third. On other occasions, especially for top-down shots, we might want a symmetric framing, in which case the same overlay helps position the subject. Further down, there is a function style with two sliders to adjust sharpness and noise. This is an example of footage taken at different sharpness value, zoomed in at 200% to better appreciate the difference. I find that the Mini 4 Pro has already a good amount of detail and sharpness, but this function can be useful on certain occasions. Regarding noise, I use the excellent denoiser Neat video when needed. You will find info about it in the description below. You can watch my video about Neat video by clicking on the link above. In the right part of the screen, above the big red shutter, we find the Photo Video menu. We can select Photo, Video, Master Shots, Quick Shots, Hyperlapse and Panorama. In this video I will focus only on video, as I will do specific ones for the other modes. Video mode has three options. Normal is the one we use on most occasions. Night mode is another new feature compared to the Mini 3. It was introduced with the Mavic 3 and then added to the Air 3. It applies automatic values to exposure, noise reduction and sharpening to optimize low-light footage. The slow motion mode is another major improvement of the Mini 4 Pro versus the Mini 3 Pro, as it is now possible to shoot at 100 frames per second in 4K and 200 at 1080p for extreme effects. To the left of the shutter there is an icon to toggle between the horizontal and vertical orientation of the camera to take footage in portrait mode. Further down we find the zoom icon. By tapping on it we toggle from normal to 2x zoom, then 3x and then back to normal. By holding and dragging it is possible to apply a progressive zoom, although smoother results are obtained by using the scroll wheel in the remote control. The icon at the bottom is for toggling between auto and manual focus. The vast majority of the time we use autofocus. The only time where manual focus is needed is for targets very close to the camera, which is rare with drones. In this case, hold and drag to set the focus. The window for exposure is on the lower area to the right. The icon to the left toggles between auto and manual, labeled as Pro. Like in all other lightweight models, the aperture is fixed, therefore we have only two values to set when exposing: ISO and shutter speed. In auto mode, the only control on exposure is through the overall exposure value, EV, the first icon to the right. I find that this model tends to slightly overexpose, so I prefer to lower the EV value by about -0.3 or 0.7. It is in most cases possible to recover the darkest areas in a slightly underexposed clip, while there is nothing we can do to fix overexposure. The next icon is for resolution and frame rate. We have two choices for resolution, 4K and 1080p. 4K is now the standard for video resolution and is the one I suggest using, although 1080p can still be used for social media if file size is an issue. Below the resolution there are options for different frame rates. The most widely used are 24 and 30 frames per second. The higher frame rates are for slow motion. Please refer to my video on how to use frame rates for slow motion for further details. In manual exposure mode we can set independently the ISO and shutter speed values for more control. The MM value at the bottom cannot be modified. It displays the luminosity resulting from the values chosen above, compared to the optional exposure computed by the software. In the same window, we can click on the icon on the bottom left to access other video settings. At the top, we select the value for white balance, which is expressed in kelvins. There is a possibility to use auto white balance by tapping on the icon on the left, but I suggest avoiding it, as it leads to unwanted shift of colors when the luminosity changes. The value I normally use in sandy condition is 5500K. On the left part of the screen there is an icon to access Waypoint, a very sought-after feature that was previously reserved for the flagship model of the DJI prosumer line. I will soon do a specific video on how to use Waypoint missions, so stay tuned. Click on this link to watch my video about the camera setting for photography with the Mini 4 Pro, and don't forget to hit the like button if you find this video interesting. Thank you!